Hello, Internet! I hope I've blown your ears out today because we got a fun one. I have my voice mostly back. That means we get to do the whole fast-paced intro again. Max Atin here. I'm SneakyDevil. This is Fanfiction episode 9002, episode 73.
Sneaky, I need to take a moment to ask this before our wonderful audience does.
Yeah.
How much cocaine?
No cocaine.
I don't believe you.
Well, you cannot believe me all you want. It is not going to change the fact that there's no cocaine in my system. However, what I can say is in my system is tea. And that's like cocaine.
Are you seriously trying to tell me that just a little bit of tea did this to you?
Yes.
He's having some hard tea, apparently.
Yeah.
Alright, so anyway, let us get on with the show. Let me just turn off the timer here so everyone knows that the show's actually starting. And then we press this button here, and hopefully, yeah, we go. And we also can change the sin count now away from squeaky voice.
Oh boy.
Let me just find that. Yeah, here we go. Atin licks.
Do not
thing.
fucking... Why is he like this, Max?
I don't know. You really,
What did he do?
really should have seen this coming.
It's not that I didn't see it coming. I just didn't know when. I knew it was coming. I just wasn't quite sure when you were going to be an asshole.
I was looking for more fan fiction recently, which means, of course, we have a whole new batch of absolute garbage to read. Since Arn is not here tonight, that means we can actually hop straight into the shit he normally bitches about. So, we got some worm, we got some more worm, we got some D times D worm, we got some, D times D crossovers with Naruto, we got some Stay Wars Harry Pooter, we got Rosario Vampire Naruto Game X Over. What do y'all want?
I mean, I hate all of them. So I tell you what. I'm gonna roll a d4 and tell you what it says.
Okay, you can do that.
Once I find my d4 that doesn't exist...
Yeah. Dr. Bonesaw, I vote for that. Well, Pedro, I do not see a star next to your name.
Well, I got a 2, so... unless Pedro gives us a star real quick, I guess I'll take door number 2, Sneaky.
So the second thing I said, that was D times D worm, I think it was.
Seriously, does this set not have a fucking D4?
Alright, so Dragon King of Escalation V2.
Oh, Jesus Christ, I'm regretting letting the dice decide.
So, as always, the link is in the Discord down below in the doobly-doo. Of course, I would be remiss if I did not remind everyone, as per Twitch compliance guidelines.
Yeah, of course.
Do not contact the authors. Because Twitch doesn't like that. They think that's harassment. They think letting the author know that they are being featured on a podcast is harassment. So, you know.
That's right, and we're not going to commit it.
We're on Twitch, so I guess we gotta listen to Twitch. But do not worry. This story is labeled humor, which means clearly it's funny. It's got 3 chapters, only 6,000 words, so it's going to be a short chapter. This, author, you okay? Published January 28th, 2018.
Okay.
You only got 6,000 words out. In a
Hey,
year.
look at it this way. They might be dead.
I'm not sure if by Twitch guidelines I'm allowed to be happy about that. It's a rule. Super Potato says it's a rule. If a story is labeled on the internet as funny, then it's clearly hilarious. Yeah, and you know, it's right at the end. Everyone, you know, the bus crashed through the wall, and everyone got out and started clapping.
Oh, I love it when that happens.
It's
so
a very
great.
common event.
Especially when I stand up to the patriarchy for it.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So this is the Dragon King of Escalation V2. The summary reads as follows.
You plan on dropping a link out of curiosity?
Did I not?
No.
Oh.
You probably missed the enter button.
Yeah, I did. Synopsis. Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Alright, you know what? Listen here. I am so tired of that thing. Listen here. I am a Sith Lord.
Yep.
And I have never once executed someone that didn't completely deserve it, in my opinion.
Look, all I'm saying is that someone said the word absolutely today during work, and I had to physically restrain myself from saying only Jedi deal in absolutes.
You mean the Sith?
No, Jedi, because the Jedi are the ones saying only Sith deals in absolutes, which isn't absolute.
Yes.
Also, the Jedi
I wasn't sure if you were going for the quote itself or the actual
parody.
Logical fallacy.
Yeah. I see Lolicon in the description. Can I call in a veto? What? When a young man is dropped into a world of breast-powered dragon, panty-powered dragon king, battle-hungry, hip-obsessed dragon, cis-con devils, perverted crows, and overly sexualized underage girls, can he still retain his sanity? With the ever-growing power at his side, read how the Lolicon Dragon King rise. So, the author manages to not even be able to correctly write a sentence in his summary.
In addition to using all the words that would make most normal people go, I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you know, I think I am going to accept that veto vote there, Soup Potatoes. It's a rewrite with Lolicon in it. I'm gonna what's the term, Max? What's the legal term for when the judge accepts the
Not sure. Personally, I'm a fan of I'm a GTFO.
What if I just
shit I'm out.
That is also acceptable.
Yeah, Sneaky, where's the image of the moonwalking space marine?
Yeah. Come on, this is gonna bother me now. You know, sustain. There we go. That's the word I was looking for.
Objection sustained.
Objection sustained. We will move on. You can all thank Super Potato from preventing us from having to witness this terror. I feel like I now have to still present to you all a worm story that is absolute garbage. So take solace in the fact that instead we are going to read this one. Yeah. When life gives you lemons, a Portal worm crossover.
But why?
The last thing I remember is being trapped in the locker, semicolon. Now I'm in some kind of filthy, abandoned research facility. Is that the proper use of a semicolon? Yeah. Congratulations, I suppose. It's not really good narratively, but you properly used it.
Hey, at least unlike the last guy, you made real sentences.
One that's clearly never heard of OSHA or the Geneva Convention. No, they heard of them. They decided that OSHA and the Geneva Convention were too expensive to follow. How did I get down here? Am I alone? Most importantly, how do I get out? Maybe I should make something. Tinker Tailor, Sane GLaDOS, Taylor GLaDOS.
Wait. How do you...
Those are just character tags. It's not actually the romantic tag in this case.
It is not a romantic tag.
I was gonna say, you better not!
No, there will not be lemons in this story. Let us get us out of the way right now. It is a T-rated story. This is a plot bunny that has been nagging me for some time now, not to mention that for some reason no one has done a Tinker story that includes the zaniest of all technological producers, Aperture Science. Actually, I have seen, so this story is in fact cross-posted onto Space Battles, and this author clearly hasn't been following along or is not very good at searching, but there is several stories where Taylor gets involved with portals, and none of them are good.
Ooh.
Yeah. Sometimes
that doesn't surprise me in the slightest that none of them are good. Because, look, humor is hard. And Portal has a very specific kind of humor.
Yes. Yes, it does. I do what I must because I can. Should I? Probably not, but I'll give it my best effort. Well, at least he recognizes it, I suppose. The portal will open in 3, 2, 1. Whoosh! When life gives you lemons by Baked.
What?
Chapter 1.
That has nothing to do with Portal and the
What?
I despise this author already.
Yes. Bolting upright into a sitting position, a scream of terror, fear, and betrayal leaving my mouth, I don't notice my surroundings. Semicolon. All I know is it's dark, there's a fire nearby. Neat. And there's bugs crawling all over my bloody jeans. Shrieking and swearing up a storm, I scramble.
Jeans shouldn't be bloody.
Well, no, remember she gets pushed into the locker. Which, again,
I thought that blood was dry for the most part.
No,
Still disgusting.
No, it's very decomposing stage. You know, where it starts rotting, gets very slimy because the bacteria all over it's starting to eat the blood and shit it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I scramble about in the dusty dark, tearing at my clothes, trying to get the bugs off. Yet the bloody shit I've been shoved into as far away from my person as possible. Holy fuck, they tried to kill me. So, okay, so I understand... Huh? What were we gonna say?
Not an unreasonable assumption.
Yeah. I understand that you need to set up scenarios for Taylor to get her powers. And sometimes you particularly lack any creative talent and decide to have the canon scenario produce wildly different powers. And while I do understand that maybe it's not something you want to put a lot of focus onto, you can do this neat little thing called What the Fucking Author Did. The author of Worm. Yeah, in case, authors of fanfiction of Worm, in case you are unaware of how canon Worm plays out, he never actually shows Taylor getting her powers. He tells what happened, but he never shows it. And you know why he never shows it? Because it's easier to not show it. It's easier just to have the character be like,
lazy,
yeah.
and you shouldn't.
Yeah, but, however, if you're like, well, I don't want to show this scenario, or I'm going to have trouble thinking of the dialogue, or I really don't want to write Emma, just do what canon did, and just be like, oh, 3 months later, character just randomly remembers it. No, not that I'm saying it's great. I'm just saying that's what canon did.
It's a feasible option.
I'm not going to get on your case for just having Taylor be like, oh, wow, this really reminds me of this has been the 2-month effort of, the event that got me my powers. And then you just have Taylor go like, yeah, so they ganged up on me one day and beat the shit out of me or something. And that's how I got my powers, to be a flying brick. And, it's not hard. You don't need to write the exact event. It's actually even easier than writing the event, because you can just have the character just narrate the parts that you need to get out there as to why they have the powers now. So,
gee, Taylor, how did you get the power to turn into a 13-foot-tall giant robot?
Oh, well, you see, I was shoved into a locker full of bloody tampons after being betrayed by my friend. And that, for some reason, lets me turn into a giant robot. Instead of anything else that might make more sense. Nope.
Like, even something like, hey, they shoved me into a car. At least that's a mechanical object.
Yeah, maybe it's like they shove her into the car and they're teasing her, except, one of them fucks up and presses the button on the scrap machine and it drops her into the thing, and she's starting to freak out, and right before she's crushed
or something like that.
Yeah. Literally, it's so easy, because again, you don't even have to show the scene.
Now all I can imagine is some terrible shit post where that makes Taylor into a transformer.
That's kind of what the angle I was going with. But, literally, it's so easy. You don't even need to show the scene. You can just have the character remembering the highlights of it. You can have them reference it. Or you can just have them, have the powers now. It's 1 month since I got my powers to turn into a transformer. It's like, okay. Well, that's kind of how canon did it, so I'm not going to get on your case for it. I'd rather you invent a scenario and you just vaguely tell us about it, than you rehashing a scene that never happened in canon. But Fanon fucking loves this locker scene.
I would say, that's actually one of the most important things, too. Listen, when you're an author, sometimes vagueness is your best friend.
Yeah.
Like, listen, when you're threatening someone, the best threat you can possibly give them, as long as you're a suitably menacing individual, is, I think you know what will happen, or I'll leave it up to your imagination.
Yeah, I mean, not even that.
Because often, people's imaginations will do a way better job than you ever could.
True. But, anyway, so, we got wildly out of, that's the other thing, this is a Tino story. Tino, for those who are unaware, is a Taylor in name only. Why was this Taylor in name only? Well, glad you asked. It's Taylor in name only because she's showing a wildly different personality than the one in canon, even though literally nothing has changed. Literally nothing has changed. The only difference is instead of waking up in the hospital, being driven mad by having the sensory information of over several thousand bugs being shoved into her brain, she's waking up in a cave, covered in bloody clothes. Now, one might say, well, Sneaky, that's a bit of a different situation. Wouldn't you have a different reaction? Sure, you might. However, such concepts such as they tried to kill me might come more readily to someone in, say, a hospital than waking up in a cave, completely fine and not injured at all. You know, if you wake up in a hospital, not that I've ever done so, but if you wake up in a hospital, most people know what a hospital is. They know the stereotypes, how the beds might look, how the rooms might look, the hospital gown that's shown in every Hollywood movie. That generally leads people to think, oh wow, whatever happened to me must have been bad for me to end up in a hospital. Now, if you wake up in a cave, my personal first response to waking up in a cave after someone tried to kill me would be probably along the lines of, how did I get in the cave?
Why am I in a cave?
You know, someone tried to kill me. Why am I in a cave now? Not, oh my god, they tried to kill me. That doesn't matter, because I might die in this cave.
I would say, as someone who has woken up in a hospital several times, all of them were surgery based, but I was still under heavy anesthesia, so I didn't really remember. My first thought was, oh, I'm in the hospital. Why am I in the hospital? Followed by going, ah, yes, that's right. The surgery.
Murders.
No, that would be you, sir.
What are we checking
any
out today?
murders.
We are currently reading a Portal Worm crossover in which the author decides to be an unoriginal shitbird and have Taylor, in name only, of course, because completely original character personality, she gets shoved into the locker, canonically, but instead of getting bug powers, she gets teleported into the Portal universe, because that's how lockers work. Also, Bisalis, I appreciate your patronage. Anyway, let us continue. I should have known is my self-depreciating depressed thought as I finally get my pants off. So, I should have known...
Wait, I'm sorry, hold on, what?
Yes. So,
Yes, right, I'm sorry, she was taking them off because apparently blood soaked through the G. Like, look, I don't care how disgusting it is. If I'm in the middle of a dark cave, I'm not going to go... even if my pants are soaked in blood, and yes, thanks to a couple of workplace incidents, I have been in pants
I mean, the soaked in blood, covered in vomit, and you have bugs on you. I can see removing the pants being a healthier option.
I mean, look, I'm just saying I've been in pants that have been quite bloody, both my own and someone else's blood, and my first thought was not...
That's fair.
Because bear in mind, this was in an outdoors situation. I did not go, I need these off of me. I went, boy, I'd really like to get these off of me, but this is not the place. You know,
That's
maybe
fair.
if she was by... Maybe if there was, like, a pool, or she was by a river or something, where she could at least dunk them, I would go...
No, I get you. Yeah. Again, though the author messes up here, they have been italicizing internal thoughts, but they didn't italicize this specifically said eternal thought because of reasons or whatever. Consistency is important. But her completely self-aware, self-depreciating depressed thought, as I finally get my pants off and fling them into the nearby fire. Okay. That's an interesting decision. I suppose you can just burn your clothes. Checking my legs for and removing with disgusted whimpers of fear what the bugs are still clinging to my skin. Ew, ew, ew. Lovely. It was so bad I coughed up my soul. I remind myself that I really, really, really should have known they tried something bigger, something crueler after leaving me alone for so long. Honestly, I can't say anything about that. Ken and Taylor really should have known better, being that they did escalate constantly with her. So, yeah. Stupid, stupid, I chide myself for the 4th paragraph about how I should have seen this coming. Brushing off dirt off my legs. Why the hell did I open the locker? Yeah, that's another question I have for Ken and Taylor.
Oh, good. Now, I'm sorry. I'm just looking ahead. Good. Now she's gonna go. Oh, I shouldn't have burned my pants. What the fuck?
I sighed, depressed all over again, and like that would have helped. No one would have helped me since starting Winslow. Okay, so the author is trying to be meta bashing here. This is a typical thing you see in fan fiction when the fan fiction author disagrees with something that happened in canon. You'll have a canon character talk about how oh wow, wouldn't it be so silly if Naruto got banished for bringing Sasuke back, and then everyone laughs. They're making fun of either fanon or canon events that are silly. And while I do give credit where credit's due, the events that Wildbow had happen are dumb. Why is she having these thoughts here? Now, she's in a cave with a unknown fire next to her that she just threw her pants into after being shot. Like, it's one thing if, like, she gets ambushed in a back alley, right? And now she's in a cave. Weird, but maybe they just threw me into this cave. Like, this is like some sort of final prank from them. They drove out to the local national park and threw me into a cave. Weird, but okay. But you went from being in a locker covered in bugs, blood, and vomit to being in a cave. And so far, all the author has done is complain about how stupid canon is. Have Taylor have a bunch of meta thoughts that Taylor never really had.
And make incredibly stupid writing decisions on his own. Like,
yeah.
Here's the issue.
And have dumb decisions on his own.
Meta bashing only works if you go, boy, wouldn't it be stupid if Naruto got thrown out of the village for bringing Sasuke back? Everybody laughs, and then you don't make equally stupid statements.
And then Sabuza shows up and says, Naruto, because you saved Haku and I, we're now pledging ourselves to you. It's just like...
I'm sorry?
Yeah. But, anyway. No one's helped me since starting Winslow. Why would they decide to start now? That's a pretty dumb accusation as well, right there. Considering that it's one thing to ignore someone who has been pushed or, gets called names. It's like, whatever, it doesn't concern me.
Or even if they're getting, like, punched.
Yeah, even if it's punching or shoving, it's like whatever. We've all been to high school. It's not my problem. Whatever, move on. But if I saw someone, if I saw someone get picked up and then like shoved into a trash can or something filled with cow shit and tampons or something, and then they're dunking the guy's head into the fucking pool of bioterrorism, yes, I would try and do something to stop it. Because that's a bit much.
Look, this has gone beyond even the bounds of poor taste.
Like, yeah, it's one thing if it's just your typical bullying. It's whatever. It's always going to exist. What's not always going to exist is entrapment. I believe the term is called. Trapping someone in a small coffin-like space.
No, that's no, Sneaky.
Oh,
Entrapment is
right.
something entirely
That's
different.
yeah.
You're thinking of imprisonment.
Yeah, imprisonment. Yeah. Trapping someone
saying-
in a small metal coffin-like space and preventing them from getting out, while also having contaminated with the space with blood, bugs, and tampons, and just basically biocontamination of the highest order.
General awfulness.
Yeah, that is a step above bullying, and I would hope people would do something, and clearly someone
That's
did
when
something
you
in
start
Canada.
swinging.
Yeah, kidnapping and false imprisonment or something like that. Yeah, look, clearly someone did something, because unlike how Fanon thinks, in canon, Taylor is only in the locker for about 30 minutes. So,
Which, given that that's not something that people would suspect would happen, and if they did it between periods, right?
they did it, before first period, between homeroom and first period. So,
So yeah, that
yeah.
it's. I mean, I get it. That's enough time for people to.
And yes, I mean, some kids did see. Some kids did see this whole thing happen. But, it's Sophia pushing her in. Um, so, she's got a reputation at this point of being a violent maniac in the school.
I would say at the best times,
Yeah.
she's a maniac.
Yeah. So it's one thing I can understand the average pussy not doing anything right there immediately. Maybe they scurry off, tell a janitor, tell a teacher or something, and then eventually it gets to someone that actually does something. But still, it was 30 minutes. It wasn't 3 days. It wasn't a year. It wasn't overnight or over the entire winter vacation. It wasn't any of that.
It wasn't even long enough for anything, any contaminants, provided they didn't force her to swallow anything or whatever, for any contaminants to enter her system.
Well, that's
From a
dependent on
skin-based
her
point.
flailing, mostly. You got to keep in mind self-injuries.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
But even still.
But anyway, so point being is that the author is now poking fun at certain parts of the story that why are you poking fun? Like, you can poke fun at these things, don't get me wrong, but why here? Why now? Why, while Taylor is trapped in a cave, is she thinking about this? Doesn't make sense. Everyone would have just blamed me. Well, Taylor, have you ever actually tried to go to someone? You said that the Fanning claims that
I was saying, we had this complaint before.
the secretary shredded my school transfer forms right in front of me. Well, A, why are you giving them to a secretary? B, why are you giving them to a secretary?
And more importantly,
I've changed schools. I've changed schools multiple times. I at no point ever handled the forms to change schools personally. Me. Never happened.
like the thing where the student hands the transcripts to the secretary or the principal or what? Nah.
That's
Nah. That ain't how
What
that
is
works.
homeroom? Okay, so homeroom is something that happens at minimum in Northeast. I can't say what happens anywhere else.
I was just saying, I can tell you for sure it happens in the Midwest.
Does homeroom?
Happens in most of the South as well.
Okay. So, homeroom is a period of time between the opening of school, when the students are supposed to officially be in the school, and between the first period where the teachers actually start teaching things. It's a means of organizing the students by class and making sure they have all of the things out of their locker that they need for the next period. It also gives them time to show up, on time. To their first period, just in case traffic
Yeah, I was
happens,
just saying because that's one of the
etc.
important things to note. Homeroom is not something you have to be there. Well,
It
depends on
is
the school.
well, it is something you do need to be there for, but it's not like you're gonna get thrown out of school for being late to homeroom. You're gonna get talked. The principal's gonna pull you in if you're late too many times, and then they're gonna talk to your parents and shit like that to make sure that it's a home thing that's causing you to be late, and not just you being a little shit.
Or
But
every day on the way to class, you know, kids X, Y, and Z punch me in the nuts and take my lunch money, so that's why I'm late to homeroom.
yeah, it's a grace period, as you could call it. You're not going to be penalized so much as if you were missing actual classes. Um, yeah, they take attendance, like I said, we were saying that. Um, it's also a period of time where you all rush to exchange homework and quickly copy each other.
I mean, if you're a little shit.
In Texas, they are pretty cool, but here in North Carolina, they're really strict. It depends on what school. Yeah, it does depend on what school, but the general purpose of the homeroom is to give a grace period between the school opening and first period.
I was just saying, it's also there. Homerooms also open early so that kids that have to get to school early for whatever reason can do so and then have a place to be that doesn't get in trouble.
Also, it does. It is basically effectively a period of time in which all of the teachers are guaranteed to be in one location. Each teacher is assigned a homeroom, and they're always in the same room. So if you ever have a question for a specific teacher, and obviously it's a short question, it's not going to take you 45 minutes to answer. You can
Stuff
you
like,
know where the
hey,
teacher's going to be, so you can ask them that question.
or like turn in late homework.
We don't have that here. You kind of just show up and you go to your classroom. Well, I mean, Pedro, you also have a murder rate that equals the rest of the entire world combined, so I'm pretty sure at this point, if you show up to school, you're already doing better. Let's see here. My thoughts are brought up short by an itching, painful ache in my chest, followed by a hacking cough. Oh my god, was there something toxic in the locker? No, Taylor, there was nothing septic in the locker. Just, your own vomit and bugs and bug feces and rotting, slimy tampons that were in the process of decomposition. Nothing toxic. Besides the obvious? I mean, you kind of answered your own question, to be honest. Crap! Maybe I shouldn't have burned my pants. And then I looked around, and I realized I was in a cave. And I realized also that I threw my house keys, my library card, and my wallet into the fire as well. Okay, well, I'm gonna, unless your house keys are made of paper, I think they're fine. But, your wallet's probably also fine if you,
Move quickly.
go get it. It is leather. Leather burns slowly.
I would say, depending on the fire, depending on the kind of fire and the materials used, it may not even have ignited yet.
Also, honestly, denim soaked in blood, that's not going to be burning anytime soon.
Rotting blood, we might add.
Well, I mean, yeah, rotting blood, but still, it's
Well,
it's
no,
still
I'm just saying,
soaked.
like, that means it's still in a very liquid, nasty.
Yeah, the blood's... Denim on its own already doesn't burn that quickly. You know, you... Oh, Smooth Taylor. I'm using parentheses now for... So, they're using italices for internal thoughts, but they're also using parentheses for internal thoughts, but they're also using parentheses for pacing, but they're also using parentheses for additional information. Consistency, author? You have no idea what that is.
I would say. Now, also, just another thing.
If it was a magnesium fire, Super Potato, she wouldn't even be able to look at it.
Yeah, I was gonna say. First of all, yeah, going with that. Have they never burned magnesium in your class? Or your science classes?
So many things in my class.
Cause, the one time my teacher did it, he was like, okay, so I'm gonna light magnesium on fire. Don't be stupid and look directly at it. That's the only time I ever heard one of my teachers ever call kids stupid at that school.
Yeah, and magnesium is super fucking bright. They use it in flashbangs. So,
And road
yeah.
flares. Yeah, I would say road flares, underwater pretty much any flare.
This author is the Oprah Winfrey of punctuation. Yeah, honestly, I think this author needs to communize their punctuation a bit, because clearly they've been hoarding it all from the rest of this entire fanfiction subreddit. Subsection. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
Blah blah blah. There's lamps illuminating a tube, which is rusted. Okay, so basically, it's remember the Portal 2 post-testing sections where you're traveling in the underground
She's
rusted?
there.
Yeah, she's there.
Boy, what a surprise in a Portal story, huh, guys?
That was actually a fairly decent Mickey Mouse. The air has a chemical tinge to it, like paint fumes, but only worse.
It shouldn't have a chemical tinge. It should have a rust tinge, a metallic tinge.
Well, there might be a chemical tinge. No, you do remember the paints that were being spread out around down there were not exactly.
I mean, yes, but that's dependent on where in the facility she is.
That's fair. Do remember the acid pools? The green haze that you had to navigate around.
I'm trying to think. I don't remember that.
I was hoping she would end up in the Portal 1 starting area. That would be something. Fighting down my panic and covering my mouth with my shirt, which was not very effective due to my rolling in no doubt contaminated dirt. Yeah, it's almost like
Also, you know, contaminated. I'm concerned about contaminants. Puts shirt full of contaminants.
Puts blood-covered shirt over mouth. Yeah, that'll stop the toxins. I mean, yes, technically it will. Now you're just breathing in rotting blood. That's not an improvement. I glance around, looking for anything I can use to stave off breathing to death. Maybe the box of garbage has something. Staggering over, I rummage through it. Safety goggles. These will probably come in my handy, making my eyes stop watering, and an orange jumpsuit. Okay, so Taylor, you have claimed that the air is contaminated, and that the ground is contaminated due to the extended contact with the air. And you are now rummaging through a garbage can, and you see safety goggles in the garbage can, which is open-topped to the contaminated air. And your first reaction is, I can wear these to protect my eyes. Really? Interesting. Do go on. Arn is a fig. I will not disagree. An orange jumpsuit. Something tells me it's radiation proof.
What?
Okay, look. Paper is radiation proof. Let's be clear here, author. It really depends on the radiation. Because for some radiation, you're just fucked. Other radiation, you can laugh at. It really depends. This is not Hollywood where you're like, oh man, this is the radiation, capitalized T, capitalized R.
I would say it's not even Fallout 4 where it's the radiation.
Well, I mean, in Fallout 4, it's the radiation because literally there's just so much of all types of radiation that there's no point in trying to make a distinction between any of it.
That's fair. I'm irradiated, Doc. Oh, what kind of radiation poisoning? Gestures around.
Gestures at the Fallout.
I don't know, Doc. Maybe it was from the car that blew up. Or maybe it was when I went into the water that's full of radiation. Or maybe it was when I was by some guy's farm who was dumping nuclear waste for the government in his
Or maybe
backyard.
it was the glowing one that gnawed on me.
Or, maybe it was when the giant green rad roach bit me in the ass.
Yeah. The cars literally have nuclear engines, so that's another thing. That's something I actually had a problem with Fallout having the cars explode. Is technically speaking, the cars ran on nuclear fusion, not was it nuclear fusion or was it nuclear fission?
I believe the cars were fusion.
Either way,
everything else had gotten to fission.
Well, no, fission is first, fusion is second.
I'm sorry.
In terms of development.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think the cars were fission, not
but
fusion.
In the end, it doesn't matter. The nuclear fission and nuclear fusion are actually extremely stable in terms of environmental damage. Shooting a nuclear reactor will not cause it to explode unless you're shooting the bits that make sure that the stable reaction takes place. If the nuclear reactor is off, it doesn't matter how much explosives, guns, bullets, tanks. You can throw a battleship at it and then have an earthquake happen and then a meteor hits it. A nuclear reaction still will not occur because nuclear reactions, fusion and fission, both require very specific environmental factors that we simulate with the giant core room. However, none of that explodes. None of it explodes. A nuclear explosion, such as the ones you see on a nuclear missile, or the ones you could see on the Davy Crockett Fallout Edition. By the way, we did in fact make the Fallout Fat Man. We tried to make one, and it turns out it works. But the problem was we couldn't shoot it far away enough to not kill the person that fired it.
Now, with today's technology, it might now be possible to do it without that.
Yeah. But the thing is that
But luckily, governments have wised up and realized that that kind of stuff is a terrible idea. Because even if we can get to a point where we can launch it far enough away from ourselves that it won't immediately kill the person, firing it, most governments have now realized that shooting nuclear devices is a bad idea.
well, it's just overly expensive. You can accomplish the same thing with non-nuclear technology, far cheaper and easier.
I mean, that too. I would say, we have fuel air bombs for a reason.
Yeah. I mean, there's also just napalming a city. I mean, in World War II, the napalming of Tokyo killed way more people than the 2 nuclear bombs dropped on Nagasaki
Okay,
and
to be
Hiroshima.
fair, that was a confluence of factors.
It was, but the point still stands, is that the firebombing of Tokyo still killed more people than the 2 nuclear bombs. The nuclear bomb is a wow factor. It's not an effective factor.
I'm not saying you're wrong, but, like, compare it to an actual city like Germany.
Fair enough.
Berlin. Firebombing.
Are
we
you saying
barely
we
even
should
bother.
nuke Berlin?
No, I'm just saying that firebombing a normal city not built out of primarily wooden structures was far less bad.
Yes, true enough.
The only reason we even thought that we should try dropping fire on that city was because we were like, oh, hey, wait a minute. They're a super closed-off culture that hasn't really modernized. Isn't their
Tokyo,
city like 90% fucking wood?
Yeah, Tokyo is mostly wood. Yeah. We quickly reminded them why that was a bad plan. But anyway, so point being, cars should not explode when you shoot them in Fallout. That makes no sense. It would make more sense if they were like hydrogen fuel packs or something is in the car and that's what's exploding.
I was gonna say, the only thing that would make any sense was if instead of hundreds of years after, shit went tits up, it was, 40 or 50, long enough for there still to be active, viable fuel in there.
Well, no, because that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. The problem
Sneaky,
is
let
that...
me finish. Long enough for it still to be capable of producing a nuclear reaction, but also a long enough period of time to be for components to be horribly unstable and rusty.
Okay, but that doesn't matter. Like, that would only matter if you're trying to turn the car on. Just shooting the engine block shouldn't cause a nuclear explosion. Like, you need the reactor system itself running to cause the nuclear reaction that could possibly release the energy to cause the explosion. But if the car isn't on, just shooting the engine block won't do anything.
I'm aware of that, Sneaky. But at least if it had been at a point, like, I could understand if 1 in 20 cars exploded or whatever, right?
Again, only if you turn them on.
I'm saying maybe it's been long enough that they're on, or stuff is unstable enough that it counts, the car thinks it should be on, because they automated a bunch of stuff, that kind of
No, actually, a lot of automation didn't happen in the Fallout verse because the transistor was not invented.
I thought they did start automating a lot of stuff towards the end. Anyway, look, my point is, it would make more sense than it's been hundreds of years, any nuclear fuel is depleted, any kind of component
that really depends on what they're using as nuclear fuel. But again, all I'm saying is you can have the cars explode. Maybe they're like, oh yeah, there's a hydrogen tank inside the cars, and that's what's used in the nuclear reaction. And it's like, okay, and shooting that makes the car explode because hydrogen's fucking volatile as hell. It's like, okay, yeah, fine. But that wouldn't cause a nuclear explosion like it does in the games. That was my point, though. It doesn't matter what it is. You can still have the cars explode. It's not going to be a nuclear explosion. But anyway, that's off topic. Let's get back to the author just absolutely butchering everything about Worm. So anyway, so they find a orange jumpsuit that is randomly radiation proof, which I don't think is true because there is definitely radiation puzzles in the game.
I would say, yeah, that jumpsuit's not radiation. It's not even radiation fucking resistant.
I shove my legs into half of it and keep rummaging. Oh wow! She's looking like Shell, guys. She's dressing like Shell.
Okay, to be fair, that was the standard aperture lab. It's not like Shell.
No, but no. The thing is that the orange jumpsuit being worn in full is the standard uniform.
Yes,
Shell's specific uniform was tying it off at the halfway point, which is what she's doing here. You would think if she's so concerned about radiation and toxins in the air and all that, she would wear the full jumpsuit. But nah. A variety of computer parts along with a dust mask, and like one of the renovators used for sanding drywall, spare filters too, and carbon-coated mesh ones in the trash. Well, if it's in the trash, I have bad news for you, Taylor. They probably don't work anymore.
We're gonna go out on a big think here.
They were still in their plastic wrappers. A distant memory of the dock workers coming over to help my dad in the garage tells me they are good for keeping out most harmful airborne particles. Okay. Why are they in the trash though? No. She's not wearing a. So the author has it wrong here again. There is two kinds of dust masks. Well, actually, three kinds technically. There is one that keeps things in. So, say when you're sick and whatnot, that's the sort of surgeon mask and whatnot you'll see people wearing. There's the second kind, which you can use against paint and that sort of stuff. That dust and wood grain and whatnot. That's the the kind of the little metal thing inside the nose where you squeeze it over your nose, and it's more bulbous than the flat surgeon one. And then there's the third kind, which is basically effectively a rebreather that you fit over your face. It's usually shaped out of plastic, and you have a filter on the side. And that's when you're doing more heavy-duty chemical work. That's when you're doing like the paint gun, where you're spraying just absolute, like not like a spray can, but like the paint gun kind of spray, where it's just a fucking hosing of paint. Where you're applying insulation, that sort of stuff. So they say dust mask, but what they actually mean is rebreather. The good stuff. Okay, I have no idea what's causing my lungs to hurt. It's getting worse. At least the goggles are clean, still in their packaging. Of course, the safety goggles in the trash can were never opened. That's why they're okay to wear. Sure, author. Yeah, the trash can just has... It's not a trash can at all, actually. The trash can just had a fresh rebreather with fresh, refills.
A fresh cartridge loaded.
And fresh goggles and a fresh uniform. Just in a trash can. In a cave. Yeah.
What, you don't just leave that stuff around in caves, man?
No. I tend to keep them in neatly packed treasure chests hidden after you complete a climbing puzzle. Let's see. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. An idea forms in my mind. A plan. A schematic. An idea. Something I can make that'll keep me from dying. The last cough tasted coppery. Again, this is something I've always been confused by with people referring to the taste of blood in their mouth as coppery. There's no copper in your blood.
It's irony.
Get the fuck out.
First of all, that was wonderfully done, and I demand recognition.
I did. I recognized you by telling you to get the fuck out.
Second of all, but no, it's iron in your blood, so your blood really does taste iron-y.
Yeah.
I took great pains to avoid making the joke a second time.
Copper and iron do in fact taste different. How I know this?
Yeah, well,
I've licked
have
copper
you ever
and
looked at
iron.
Penny Kids?
I was a kid at one point. That's horrible. Go self-neck yourself. Good summary, I actually work in drywall. Yeah. I mean...
Yeah.
No,
like,
I'm not going to go into the story as to why I know all that.
I was just cutting insulation, and I had
I was doing things that probably shouldn't be spoken of on the podcast. Let's see. I'm not in the best shape for surviving in this place, never mind how I got here. I need to live long enough to escape. Well, I'm glad that halfway into the chapter you are finally realizing this, author. I'm calling you author because I can only imagine that you're just a self-insert at this point, because this is not Taylor at all. Easy plan, the schematic crystallized in my mind, and I get to work. Grabbing the mask and computer parts, I start unthinkingly taking apart the random computer bits. Wait. I start taking apart the random computer bits, semicolon, fans, oh good, a toothbrush. That's actually the incorrect usage of semicolon, author. It's neither a separate sentence or a continuation of the idea you previously had. Bits of metal and elbow grease, and the end of the brush's handle becomes an impromptu screwdriver. It's a shiv. You made a shiv. Congratulations. Better be careful around the fire, but these bits of metal over here below the small hole should make good soldering metal. And what exactly are you going to use to solder? Also, soldering metal. You, where are you getting resin? Huh? Author? Where are you getting lead? Huh? Author? You think lead is in computer parts? It is, you're correct. It's the solder! Surprise. But, why are you chipping the solder off if you're just gonna re-solder the computer parts? Oh, to rejigger it, because you're a tinker. Yeah, I suppose. If, you had any actual idea what you're doing, and, by the way, that circuit board, it's already wired a specific way by the silicone and the layers of the silicone, and they run the wires inside the silicone, which is why when a motherboard breaks, you can't just glue it back together and call it a day. You have to replace it, because there's shit embedded into the silicone.
Nah,
Doctor.
see, if you have a soldering iron and are really good at math, you can make it do what you want.
It's like a video game. You just take some computer bits and you bash them with a rock, and then you take some glue and then you put it over the fire, and you glum it all together, and suddenly it's a rebreather mask with a double-sided filter or something. I don't fucking know. I'm just putting words together. Anyway, so she unwraps the filter, and I breathe through it while working. You breathe through the filter? That's
That's how you do.
really ineffective. Because a breathing mask works when you cover all of the openings you take air in through. Not just sticking the filter into your mouth or whatever. I'm trying to suck through that. That's not how that works. Also, if you're tasting charcoal inside the filter, that means the filter has been compromised.
Because here's the thing, right? When you have a filter like that, you're not supposed to taste anything.
Well, you're not supposed to. Well, I mean, if you're tasting the charcoal, that means the back of the filter's been compromised and it's leaking into your mouth. No batteries. Maybe one of those plastic but not cases has some kind of tech I can use. Faded label, kind of heavy. It's Aperture Laboratories. Never heard of it. I cough again. Questions for later. I have to not die first. Shaking my head, blah blah blah.
Okay,
Open
look,
the
Taylor,
box.
I have really, really bad news for you.
Yeah.
If you're already, like, if whatever's inside your lungs and body has reached the point where it's already causing chest aches and distress and etc., you're fucked without a real doctor and a very good ICU.
I mean, if you're already coughing up blood, yeah, that's pulmonary, and that's not good. And really, it doesn't matter what kind of filter you're now breathing through. You're pretty fucked. That means your lungs are saturated by this point already, and whew. Yeah, no. Anyway, so she opens up this random case that was sitting right next to the garbage can, and inside it are a pair of boots, white boots. Made of a metal that she can just naturally tell allows you to fall from high distances without issue. High-yield pneumatic-powered hydraulic shock absorbers in the sole, and a very subtle but compact, wonderfully efficient, and some kind of gravitron anomaly in the sides, knee height, very aerodynamic and comfortable looking. The Aperture logo again. Blinking at the logo, I realized the reason for the gravitron disc built into these boots. They're meant to right a person in midair, so the soles of the boots are always seeking the nearest flat surface. If someone wears them, they will always land on their feet. I can't put them on fast enough. Now, what I'm looking for until the boots fasten themselves with superconducting magnetic clamps, giving the idea for my mask's power source. Biometrics. Okay, so the author basically just copied the Poetal wiki for the boots. Congratulations, author. The fans I'm going to put in my mask to help keep all but the largest particulates out, so I don't have to keep switching filters every 20 minutes. How long do you think 20 minutes? What are these, the world's tiniest filters?
That or the other filters from Metro.
Okay, well, no, to be fair, Max, those filters were compromised and old.
Depending on where those filters were found, some of those things were like in excellent condition throughout that game, and they still only lasted 15 minutes. Filters are made to last as long as they're not in use. Those things are tough, especially military grade, which is what we appeared to be picking up in that game.
That's true enough.
Like those things are fucking heavy duty.
But let's be honest here, though. If you're playing Metro and you've somehow run out of filters, you're playing the game wrong. Like, honestly,
You have missed something, and you fucked up somewhere. If you run out of them at the end of the game, okay, sure. If you run out of them before the end of the game,
The game practically throws like 7 filters at you every 4 minutes.
yeah, and if you know what you're doing, you will end the game with, I want to say, at least 7 or 8, as well as a full complement of,
Easily.
4 or 5 magazines worth of auto shoddy. At which point, oh, hello, last 2 levels, I'm just going to walk through you.
Mm-hmm.
Or you got really lucky and got the gauze crossbow really early on and just yeeted everything. What's that? Reusable ammo? Don't mind if I do. But anyway, it just... So she's going to... So I know what she's talking about. She's talking about trying to turn a basic rebreather mask that you would use for construction or paint or heavy-duty painting, etc. And she's trying to turn it into one of those, like, Israeli survival masks. Which, they do actually have fans in those. But that's for the purpose of... I'm not actually sure what the fan's purpose of inside those filters.
They may be there just to increase circulation for the actual person wearing it.
Right, to increase the air so they don't have to suck so hard. Yep. Yeah, thank you. At would know all about sucking and increasing the circulation. The fans I was going to put in my mask to help the... But this is what I don't get. I'm going to put fans in my mask to keep all but largest particulates out. How is a fan going to help your filter's efficiency? What? Like, don't get me wrong, Tinker bullshit and all that. But this isn't like Tinker bullshit, I'm going to take a fan and I'm going to create some sort of rebreather system. No, this is literally the author's just like, I'm going to take a fan and that's going to keep particulates in the air out of my mouth. I guess blowing the air away from me. So I can't breathe? I am just really... I'm really confused. I don't need to keep switching filters. I only have 11 of the things. They don't need much electricity to work. 11 fans or 11 filters?
Well, they shouldn't
I'm
need
assuming
any
by the hyphen they mean fans don't need much electricity to work.
I mean, I assume they also mean that, but...
I mean, they only have like 8 different kinds of punctuation in this giant paragraph of a sentence. The human body produces around 100 watts of power a day with a 2,000 calorie diet, and that's at rest. In motion, there's more due to kinetic discharge. I can also draw off the Earth's magnetic field, like these boots are doing, to mitigate the energy consumption problem. Okay, fam. As someone who builds computers, Max knows as much as I do here. Fans do not draw lots of power.
No, they don't.
Even at like 4,000 plus RPM, you're looking at maybe 4 watts at best per hour. Not kilowatts, watts. They do not draw lots of power, and what you're talking about is maybe say a thumb-sized fan spinning at not even anywhere close to 4,000 RPM. Because you're talking about computer fans that are probably due to, company not being custom computer. I would put it at what would you say, Max? The standard stock fan, 2,000 RPM? 3,000 maybe?
About that, I think.
So, I mean, you're already not drawing too much energy there, man. Man.
Yeah. Honestly, if you're popping for extra fans, it's gonna probably be for your CPU cooler. Stock fans are usually more than enough
Yeah.
because they don't draw much power. Honestly, mine draw more power than I would like because they put fucking LEDs in them. I hate that.
I don't understand this. Like, the author is trying to make it like some sort of tinker mumbo jumbo. She's gonna do some really esoteric bullshit here, and I'm going to explain it to you. Even though Tinker Tech is supposed to be unexplainable, so first off, you shouldn't be explaining it to us. But since you're explaining it to us, I'm going to have to call you out on your bullshit here, author. Just literally have Taylor be like, oh, I can replicate with higher inefficiency, I'm going to replicate the system the boots use. And the fans now work. And I would have just been like, okay. But instead, you decide to take the time out of our day to describe how you're going to have the human body provide electricity for a fan that's supposed to keep air from entering the filter. Because reasons.
Also, why would you want the fans working in a compromised, like, yeah,
I don't know.
Draw more air in.
Yeah, I'm not. Well, I mean, the purpose, again, is to keep the circulation increased so you don't have to breathe so hard and exert yourself so much. But, again, she's not working with military-grade, respiration masks. She's working with a fucking, construction rebreather.
Yeah.
At best, your filter is charcoal powder, foam, and maybe some paper sheet. Blah blah. All I need is some cloth. My shirt will do. This jumpsuit's nice and snug. Also some copper. Yep, there's dead cables all over the place. One man's trash is my survival, and these boots give me a great idea. There's contaminants in my lungs. They need to go. So I'm going to use an oxygen tank to draw the air out of my lungs.
You've killed yourself.
Congratulations, you have made your lungs collapse.
Like, you've killed yourself. And there's no fixing that.
Well, I mean, you can fix it.
Specialized medical technology.
No, it's actually really easy to fix a collapsed lung, actually. You just have to aim for in between the ribs, about halfway point, from the side, not the back. It's important you do it from the side, or from the front. But you are more likely to hit some important shit. Was it from the front or the side? I think the side's the more important shit. Either way, from the front or the side, I mean, your lungs already collapsed, so literally at this point, it's fuck it mode. I would typically go from the side, though, if you're trying to reinflate a lung by puncturing it, because there's usually less muscle there. Anyway, point being is you can, sharp stake, just thunk right through the ribs into the lung, pull out, lung reinflates. I mean, yeah, you have internal bleeding now, but at least you're no longer asphyxiating to death. And she does, in fact, have a spike because she impales an empty oxygen tank, which is... It's 1 atmo, which...
Okay, but Sneaky, that's not what I'm saying. Like, okay, let's say she successfully draws the contaminants out of her lungs, which, first of all, that's not going to help her at this point.
Right.
She's already been breathing and exerting herself.
Yeah, it's already in her bloodstream. Yep.
They're in her stream. And she's still in an area filled with contaminants. Yep. So pulling the oxygen, that you're not solving the problem.
Yeah, no.
At all.
Nope. Now, see, as Bisolis says here, the author's getting hung up on useless, dumb bullshit, and it's draining the pace to a snail's pace. Yeah, basically that is what's happening here. Is the author is trying to show the tinkering process, which should already be esoteric and skipped. I do the whiz bang with the fizzle muncher, and then suddenly my Katukul has a dangle flop.
There's a reason that it's always portrayed as, suddenly I was in a fugue state, and then I had a plasma cannon.
Or, as the Kirby Worm crossover does it, where Taylor is a Kirby tinker. Not as in, Kirby itself, but the Kirby world, where she can produce the substances that exist in it, like the clouds and shit.
I'm a giant nerd. I was hoping that this was Jack Kirby, the comic guy.
No.
Because that would have actually been okay.
Kirby Dreamland Tinker. But, no, like, the author's just like, and then I used the fire essence in the ethereal pump and began using fire pump powers to activate the metal to turn it into the star-infused ethereal dust. And I conformed that in the compressinator, and like he just made up a bunch of sciencey-ish bullshit to show that his Tinker stuff was doing the Tinker stuff, because that's how Tinker stuff works in Worm. It's not like, for Dragon, it is actual sort of semi-pseudoscience, because her special Tinker power is the ability to break other Tinkers' work down into something that's replicable, which means that it would have to make sense in how it works, which means it would operate off of normal physics. Tinker bullshit does not do that. So you being like, oh man, we're going to use the copper wiring to route through the punctured circuit board, and then we're going to use the solder to keep all the wires in. That is what I call survival crafting, not tinkering. Also, you look like a dumbass, because that's not how any of this works. So you're trying to have your cake, eat it too, but then also claim that you haven't eaten the cake. When Jorp, we can't pay for him to come on every single time, Tension, but
we don't control Jorp.
We could if you had a star next to your name. But anyway, so the awesome idea they have is they're going to use an oxygen tank, a rubber hose, and a filter on the mouth, and then a spike of metal driven into the tank side, and this will create a false vacuum for 10 seconds. Exhaling hard into the filter and punching myself in the diaphragm, I feel another brief pain in my chest, a heavy cough, and a nasty glob of contaminated material. So, as a person who took a little bit of A, chemistry, B, biology, and C, biochem lab, fuck yourself, author. So, hey, first off, if it's an empty
let's
oxygen...
start with the basics of if they had a physical thing in their lungs, right?
Well, yeah. Well, not even that. So the entire premise here is that they are puncturing a tank of oxygen to create a rapid decompression.
No, it's not even that. It's an empty oxygen tank.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting. That's what I'm getting to. The idea is that they are going to puncture this tank, and due to the atmospheric differences between the inside of the tank and the outside of the tank, it will create a temporary vacuum that will suck the goop out of Taylor. The problem with this is a empty tank, as you said, and as I'm trying to draw attention to. An empty tank has 1 atmosphere of pressure, as compared to the outside of the tank, which is 1 atmosphere of pressure. So, that's going to be a little bit of a problem, because puncturing the tank at that point will cause nothing to happen, because there's no pressure difference. The second problem with this hypothesis of sucky is Taylor puncturing the tank. Now, I know this might be a bit much for you to comprehend, a hypothetical strawman author that is not here, unfortunately, because I would love to rant and rave at you for this stupid-ass bullshit. So, you think Taylor, a person who was winded after running a mile and never heard of the term weight training, is going to be able to pick up a metal spike that she just randomly found and puncture a compressed oxygen tank. So, in case you are curious, oxygen is a very flammable material. It doesn't like being compressed either. So,
Most things don't.
no, I mean, water for some
That is
reason
correct.
likes being compressed.
Okay, but water also likes to exist as a liquid and a solid
And a gas.
at all times. So
Yeah, water is just weird, but anyway. Point being, so oxygen is heavy. And oxygen. Now, I actually worked at a plant that worked with oxygen, hydrogen, fluoride, a whole bunch of fun chemicals that are very deadly to you. The tanks, very heavy. When they are full, you don't lift them. You actually roll the, and I'm talking about like the skinny ones. I'm not talking about barrels or something. I'm talking about these skinny as shit ones you like seeing like Left 4 Dead and shit, like the skinny, not a little bit thicker than a fire extinguisher. Those things, those little tiny skinny things, those are heavy as shit because they are filled with compressed gas, which by the way is very, very dense because you're packing, 38 times the atmosphere level into it or more. And so the metal on these tanks is quite thick because, as you would imagine, pressure difference. You brought it up, author. You should know about it then, right?
Or
Thick
at least
tank.
know how to Google.
You ain't piercing that with your hand. I mean, maybe a dock worker, for example, could, if he really gave it some oomph on a good angle and the tank was secured with clamps, I would say he probably could, with a spike in his hand. Now, definitely, of course, if he had some sort of pickaxe-like object, he could probably easily pierce the tank.
He wouldn't even need a pickaxe.
leverage.
Honestly, a literal hammer and chisel setup, provided it was secured. Just,
Well, but that's what I'm saying, like, pickaxe-like object, so literally just any sort of tool that gives him a better angle and momentum and weight distribution to a specific point. But
The author said canister, and I might have been willing to give them benefit of the doubt. They said tank. Well, canisters naturally have thinner walls to them.
True.
In exchange for being much smaller and holding like maybe
10, maybe 5.
1/20th,
Yeah.
1/12th, 1/20th of a tank.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking like this is the kind of canister that your aging relative would carry in their purse strapped to their nose.
Right. Yeah.
Something
I
like
was
that.
gonna say. Also,
Something easily movable.
I work at a company where they do a lot of welding. So we have quite a few gases on hand that we need to keep everything running smoothly, right?
Oh yeah.
So those are in big old fucking tanks.
Some of those tanks are older than you.
I mean, yes. Well, I mean, these ones aren't because the building is brand new. And so the welding equipment was freshly installed, so no.
Oh.
But the fact of the matter is, we produce multi-million-dollar equipment.
Yep.
And the most secure area in that entire plant is outside. And that's because that's where all the fucking gases are kept. Walking over there is like walking into a steampunk land. It's a bunch of pipes, it's a bunch of tubing, and every 6 seconds exactly, there's a giant whoosh of air shooting out.
Compression, yeah.
Because it's like, we need to keep this pressurized at exactly whatever.
Yeah.
So that shit doesn't explode, because we have argon, nitrogen, helium, oxygen.
Well, I mean, only oxygen.
One of those is really, really, really bad if it explodes.
My favorite is the plant that I was working at. We had a hydrogen tank. I'm talking about like the big tank too. And you know how far away that was kept from the facility? Half a mile. From anything. It was literally
right.
flat land of concrete, half a mile between it and anything of the facility because of how volatile that shit is. Ooh. Yeah, if you think hydrogen gas if you think hydrogen gas burns, wait till you see liquid hydrogen.
Oh my god.
Boy. Anyway, so that's not the point here. The point here is back to the fact that the author is completely out of their fucking mind. So we've covered two things now. The tube, which apparently can hold off on a vacuum, even though it's disintegrating, and the empty oxygen tank, which is for some reason pressurized, even though it's empty. And the fact that Taylor has been able to pierce this tank with her fist and a nail. So, she also somehow attaches this tube to the filter she's breathing through. And I don't know how she does that, but whatever. And then she has a heavy cough, followed by an unbelievable nasty glob of contaminated material. So, problem here, this final problem with the biological aspects of what's going on in this little kajingle. There's a pain in my chest. Yeah, that pain is you inverting your lungs. It's called blowout. You don't want to do that to your lungs. You die. But anyway, so, and then as Atin had brought up previously, and then for some inexplicable reason, her body had coated all of the contaminated material in a mucus that just happened to be sitting in her lungs, and it all just came out in one giant blob. And she spit that and the filter out, and then she spit a few more times, coughed one more time, and then slipped the finish mask on. And some tensing errors there, but whatever. The fans kick on as the diode strips I made out of copper wire, cloth, and one of the motherboard processors comes into contact with my skin. Really, you use the motherboard processor.
Just ignore it. Let's just keep going.
Okay, yep. A wave of dizziness marks the brief moment of my rapidly beating heart powering the capacitors up. Before the magnetic harvesters in the fan draw on the magnetic field, easing my own contribution to a mere 0.1 watt per second. I try breathing. Okay, not as bad. I'm still in pain, and I sound like Darth Vader now, but at least I won't breathe myself to death. Breathe to death. Wow, that's a thing now. Well, technically, author, it's always a thing. Technically, the reason why we die is because we oxygenate our cells to the point where we can no longer repair them. Because oxygen is chemically corrosive to all organic matter and inorganic matter. Look, the point is, oxygen is just, it just hates everything. Not as much as, like, fluoride, but oxygen hates everything. It's useful, but it kills you.
In fact, if humanity could unevolve the need for oxygen, we might live forever.
Well, we
No,
would
I'm just making
also
that up.
be unable to move, and would probably have to sit at the bottom of the ocean and just filter out particulates like a sponge.
It works for groupers.
Yeah, but we aren't groupers. Surviving the bitches 3. Oh boy, I love that fucking fan in line. She never calls them the bitches 3. And their cronies. This say nothing of all the gangs doing shit, only to die to air. That would have sucked.
Again, author, you seem to be the example of a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. Although in this case, little knowledge just produces excessively poor writing.
Yeah.
She's breathed enough of this stuff, or whether it's from the locker or whatever, that it's already causing her to have pulmonary distress. She is dead without pretty much modern medical technology
Yeah.
and an operating room within. Based on the fact that she's already coughing up blood and has aches in her chest, and the fact that she's hacking up giant globs of mucus. Granted, she used a vacuum pump to do that, but she's extracting matter from her lungs. She should be dead inside, Sneaky. I'd say 3-4 hours.
Well, I mean, it really
Charitable?
depends on the material that she's breathing in and how it's interacting with her metabolic rate and what exactly is going on. Because, I mean, like, formaldehyde, for example, methanol. It's deadly because it gets metabolized 3 different times into a chemical compound that bonds with the oxygen receptors in your cell, forcing it to produce, lactic acid. And the lactic acid is actually what kills you. It's not the methanol.
Mm-hmm.
But that takes up to 12 hours, depending on obviously the dosage of the methanol to start with, and how fast your metabolism is, and what else you've eaten at that point that would slow down the metabolization of the methanol, and a whole bunch of other factors. But yeah, I mean, you have quick acting shit too. I mean, if she's already, but the important thing here is she's already coughing up blood, and she's already coughing up blood within 5-10 minutes of breathing it in.
Well, to be fair, that could have been from other stuff.
Well, it doesn't matter if you're coughing up blood in your lungs already within 5 to 10 minutes of breathing in. You have one of two things: either you've breathed in a chemical that is rapidly metabolizing inside your lungs and bloodstream now, causing laceration and seepage of blood. That's a problem. The alternative is that she was breathing in small solid particulates that were shredding her lungs. And yes, well, technically speaking, vacuum pumping them back out would do a decent job of, preventing further damage. She's already taken damage to her lungs. She's already had a damaged respiratory system. That's going to cause internal bleeding. Which, again, that's actually not something modern medicine can stop. Internal bleeding of a lacerated variety. So that's why fiberglass. You don't want to breathe fiberglass in, because that'll just get into your lungs and shred them. Volcanic rock. That's actually what kills you when the plume hits you. It's the heat and the small, tiny particulates of rock that get into your lungs, and they cook you from the inside and also shred you like you went through a blender. The other various things like that, chemical compounds and whatnot that can bind and rip shit out of your cells and just cause them to explode, and you die of blood filling your lungs. But Point being is that anything that's causing bleeding inside your lungs within 5 to 10 minutes of breathing it in is a far more serious problem now that it's happened. It doesn't matter what caused it at this point. At this point, now you have lacerations or some sort of chemical reaction going on inside your lungs that are causing blood to pool inside your lungs.
And don't forget some other foreign matter too. Like, she has a foreign matter in her lungs.
And
blood is bad enough.
Yeah, I mean, what she's saying here is that it was a giant goopy ball of mucus-covered stuff. That implies that it wasn't a chemical, as she thought it was. It was toxic. And it was actually physical particulate matter.
That's probably a combination of blood, mucus, and her lungs.
But well, I mean, the thing is, though, is it wouldn't have been this solid ball of goopy mucus. It would have been, striated mucus with...
I mean, look, I get what you're saying. I'm just saying, like...
Yeah, I'm just saying, what my point is, the author's dumb. They tried to make things, a certain way for dramatic tension, and just looked completely like a fucking moron to anyone that knows even 101 levels of knowledge. Let's keep going. Build something this mask will take longer. Crossing my eyes, I now look at the heavily modified dust mask, which I'm pretty sure would allow me to breathe in any non-aqueous environment. Again, so that just reminded me of something she said earlier. She said the fan would prevent anything but the large particles passing through the filter, and that's actually the opposite. It would prevent the large particles from passing through the filter. And that the smaller ones would be too light, because again, you're pushing the filter itself is multi-stage. I'm assuming at this point, because the author has no idea what filters are, beyond the fact that there's charcoal inside them. The fan wouldn't be keeping large particulates out. The filter would be, the multi-stage of the filter would be keeping smaller and smaller particulates out, depending on how many stages and what's being used inside the filter. Which is why, of course, you can't use a construction rebreather, and why you can't use, say, a dust mask, as the author is claiming, why you can't use these different things for... why you can't use a surgeon mask for doing heavy-duty woodwork, where there's, lots of sawdust in the air. Because it's the filter on it, being a small, thin sheet of cloth, isn't built to keep out that particulate. And just claim, because I put a fan on this filter, I can now breathe in anything that isn't water? It's not even remotely how that works. I mean, again, if you did some tinkery-jinkery shit where you're like, and then I, wrapped the cloth in some copper wiring and did the voodoo magic on it, and then I slipped it between the fan and the charcoal, and I, baked it in this aqueous solution that I just invented using my spit, some paint chips, and rust over there. It can now let me breathe anywhere between 0 and 6,000 miles. I would have been like, alright, sure, you did some tinkery-jinkery shit here, but you literally put a computer fan on a charcoal filter. Ignoring the size difference issues there, and how you possibly secured the two together, and how you possibly made the filter part replaceable. Because, keep in mind, the Israels, who pioneered and have advanced the filter fan mask to the point that it is in terms of military and civilian deployment.
They got a lot...
Yeah.
Gas. Not That's not a Holocaust joke, by the way. That's a unfortunate reality of people living in modern day Israel.
But that's not the point. The point is that these filters that the Israelites use on their military grade gas masks, these filters have the fan built into the filter. When you remove the filter, the fan goes with it because it's on a battery pack, and when you put the new filter in, there's a new fan. So, author, you solved the battery issue for the fan, but you didn't quite solve the size issue, the replacing of the filter issue, the securing of the fan issue. You kind of just said you literally just took a construction rebreather and attached a CPU fan to it and said, I can now breathe in the anywhere. This is why I call you a dumbass. This is why I call you a dumbass. How in the hell? I just built this thing. I don't even know about pneumatic systems or biometrics. What the hell's going on? Okay, what pneumatic systems? Are you talking about the boots? Yeah, sure, fine, that's understandable. But if you're talking about a pneumatic system in the filter, well, you never mentioned any of that. And, it's just... You put a CPU fan on a charcoal filter on a construction rebreather. Isley could do that!
I mean, maybe not Isley, but...
The fans are making audible noise. They're not supposed to do that. Oh no, I'm panicking again. They're making the fans go above their production specs. Trust me, fans have a very, very high ceiling of their ability to go above production specs, especially CPU fans. They can go way above their rated spin. Taking a deep, slow breath, I calmly examine the situation, playing the events back in my head, and now I'm wearing a wonder mask. It's a fucking CPU fan on top of a charcoal filter. It's not a wonder mask, author. It doesn't matter how many times you exclaim that your fucking CPU charcoal filter rustcraft was amazing and is fantastic. It doesn't change the fact that it's a CPU fan on a charcoal filter. And that's all that it is. There's only one logical explanation as to why I can build bullshit technology. What part of this is bullshit? I mean, the biometrics part's bullshit, but that's not the part you're focusing on. You're focusing on the part where you put a CPU fan on a charcoal filter, and you're calling that bullshit. I'm a tinker. I can't let myself get distracted. I need to think about other things that aren't signing autographs or fighting villains. How did I go from the locker to here? Maybe I can teleport? I try focusing. Okay, I'm not a teleporter. I look back at the box I pulled my new boots from. Aperture Laboratories, still don't know about them. Under the bay, I muse aloud? It's possible. An electronic device, I don't know how I know that, must be a tinker thing. Comes from the... Holy crap. Electronic noises? Very distinct from non-electronic noises. Very distinct. In fact, anyone that's ever worked with electronics knows the difference between forest and electronics. Now, author, I can only assume that you've lived in a box your entire life and that you're writing this on an abacus. I'm in some kind of weird, not totally abandoned laboratory. There's power here, That must mean there's a phone somewhere. Right, because there's so many phones that connect to outside secret black site laboratories with Tinker technology that you didn't build, that you can tell the immediate usage of. Sure. Yeah. Glad to see that the idiot ball has now fully fused into Taylor's forehead and has consumed her frontal cortex. Why would someone abduct me? Who would want a 106-pound, gawky, iron-board flat Taylor Herbert?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Here we go again.
Maybe I wasn't abducted. I'll have to investigate. Maybe that other box.
Alright, first of all, Taylor, you still have functioning lungs. You still have, well, maybe not lungs anymore, but you have a functioning heart, functioning kidney, livers, a spleen, not that anyone needs that, but you have functioning ones. Your eyes are still useful. Like, it doesn't matter how attractive you are if someone kidnaps you to harvest your organs.
Well, they could be kidnapping her for sex trade, but that's not the point here. The point here is that Taylor wakes up in a cave.
Sneaky, I'm just going with what she's with the who wants you know.
I know. What I'm saying though is Taylor wakes up in a cave, right? She wakes up in this cave, and she's next to a wood fire. So someone set up a bonfire right next to her.
Bonfire
of the
lit.
cave she woke up in. And there's a trash can that has a uniform, a completely brand new goggles, and rebreather mask. And then right next to the trash can, there's a box containing Aperture fall boots. And right next to that trash can, on the other side, is the portal gun. And Taylor's thought is, oh no, I've been abducted. Right, because an abductor would kidnap you and then build a fire in a cave, put you next to it, and then leave you a uniform, a breathing mask, safety goggles, fall boots, and a portal gun. Because that's what abductors do when they kidnap people, is they put them in situations that they can use them to escape from. That's what abductors do. Now, if, say, a TV screen was lowered from the ceiling and it turns on and there's a little doll there that asks if she would like to play a game, then I would believe that situation where she was abducted. But, well, that's not what's happening right now. So, point of view switch, Aperture Laboratories. GLaDOS shuddered as she came out of sleep mode, which was kind of funny, but not really, because she couldn't remember entering sleep mode. And she hadn't died again or anything, and what the hell was happening this time?
Oh, Jesus Christ, that means this is post-shell.
Probably, yes.
No, it has to be, because died. Unless this is one who's somehow already become aware of her existence from
Potato? Yeah, I know.
no, not Potato, Secretary Girl.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, the Potato arc.
Oh, yeah, the whole Potato arc, which that would be a whole other thing.
A comprehensive check of her system, taking all of a picosecond, had her swearing out loud in rage all across the Aperture's local area network. Because that's a thing. Sending all active cores running to their stations. There were fires everywhere. Half of her testing tracks were in disarray, and the other half were in varying stages of destruction, and the relaxation the relaxation wing had lost power for, god damn it, all of her testing subjects and all of the backup scientists and engineers. They're all dead. Their brains were melted from the power shutting off facility-wide and kicking back on full blast. Normally, I would interject at this point saying, That's dumb, author. You're stupid and this is bullshit. But this is Aperture Laboratory, and I would not put it past them to cut a corner like that. Speaking of which, the next 2 seconds of her life were the most agonizing, nail-biting ever, to use the term loosely, of her runtime. So yes, this is a post-Portal 2 aware GLaDOS. If she made one mistake, the entire facility would have gone up in a nuclear fireball from not one, but all 4 reactors going critical. Crisis now averted barely, but everyone biological was still dead. This was a disaster. When she got her tools on that moron. Waitley, GLaDOS screamed into the Aperture's land. What in the hell?
Yeah, because she totally does that.
Yes. What the hell was that little blue idiot thinking, letting everyone die? The humans were supposed to help her do science, and then they could die. If they were dead, no science could get done.
Okay, so first of all, they've already messed it up because if this is post-time skip, I guess, GLaDOS, then the only 2 reasons she got rid of Chell was because Chell had proven to be a massive threat to the safety of the facility and GLaDOS herself, and then GLaDOS got replacements.
Yep.
The robots.
They were dead, no something about server farms were partially corrupted, which means she was being slowed down. Which meant the fire to take longer to extinguish. That's not how that works. This was going to take forever to sort out. Yes, Mum, I know, the intelligence score cried back, or at least he sounded apologetic, the little toe rag. I don't know what happened. 1 second I was checking row 10B, column 5, working on the kinks like you told me to. And then everything went black. I come back and everyone's already dead. What was that, Max?
I don't think he said anything.
No. Groaning in annoyance, mostly at not having someone to blame, GLaDOS told the moron to just send them to material processing. At least they could make oil out of the cadavers, and checked the sensor logs throughout the entire facility looking at the cause of the clusterfuck. Funny, there were a few she couldn't remember placing. Data stamps showed they were sensors that she wasn't supposed to have the credentials to access, another artifact of Ratman's failure to kill her, her steadily loosening chains. On the other hand, some had been destroyed by whatever happened. Oh, her poor facility. So, the author's either going to come out with some bullshit, like the entire facility, post-Portal 2, was teleported into the Wormverse. And let's be honest here, with the author's track record so far, that's probably what they're going to say.
It's true. Also, let's bear in mind something very important here.
Yeah.
There were no humans there.
No.
There was one human.
Ratman. No, Ratman.
No, Ratman's, by the time you get to Portal 2, he's either escaped or dead. I forget which, but he's not there.
Are you sure?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he's dead, but... Because they put out a whole comic about Ratman.
Oh, right, they did, didn't they? Anyway, doesn't matter. According to the author, in this AU, everyone's dead. There,
they were already dead.
All the cores her record showed should be active or online and bringing damage reports, except for Moses. The storage ring would take time to clean an inventory, no matter if she would give him the details once he reported in. She showed the cores her findings, speaking slowly. Not everyone had her processing power after all. There was an anomalous energetic discharge under this facility, one that should have killed us all with radiation alone. I guess if there were certain waves of radiation that would have disrupted the electronics to the point of complete corruption, and I guess. But you would have had massive amount of radiation, like literally everything in the entire place will probably still be irradiated. Well, depending on, if it does that much damage, yeah. My Radiation 101 says that if that occurred, author, everything would still be highly radioactive. But that's just radiation 101. I'm not a radiologist. Thank God. It's like 16 years of my life that I wouldn't get back. Anyway, break in all observation rooms, and now we're here. Plus side, we're alive, so let's get to work. Damage report manufacturing. Factoid's voice was flat as ever. Turn production offline. Automated systems repairing vital mechanisms. Estimated time of completion 50 work hours. New parts will be required before optimal production can continue, as the recycler was damaged beyond easy repair. GLaDOS made a note for Moses and sent it off, then nodded for Benson to continue. Companion and storage cube storage is secure. Corrupted core security was breached temporarily. 4 cores escaped before containment could be reestablished. Adventure is on it, Mom, squeaked Neil. Are these all named? Are these like fanon names or something? I don't know. Jittering and twitching with hyperactivity, gonna round him up like a space cowboy and send the bad cores to space. GLaDOS nodded in satisfaction and turned to the youngest member of the core family. She'd saved Wheatley for last because she was mad at him. Curiosity fidgeted nervously. The poor dear. I'm sorry, Mom, but the neurotoxin generator, it imploded. It was so interesting to watch. She shuddered and continued. The portal generators are still up. They seem to be really happy to see me too. So are the master programs for the discouraged beams.
Okay, so Sneaky.
So
I looked at
yeah.
Nobody's sure if he's dead. People think he might have made it to the moon because in typical Valve fashion, there's a massive amount of shenanigans to go through to get this. But so you know the first room where they first teach in Portal 2, there's like the water in the floor and it's teaching you about using like momentum through the portals.
Right.
And GLaDOS sends down a bunch of junk on that first time.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a radio there.
Mm-hmm.
You have to snag the radio with like the hold function of the portal gun.
Right.
Launch radio and yourself to the end, at which point the radio starts picking up I forgot about this. I did it, but I forgot about it. Starts picking up a signal that you have to use some like funky program that turns audio into a picture.
Right.
And it shows you Ratman on the moon.
Of course. Anyway, so blah 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 blah. Might want to update her RAM. That's not how that works. Everyone's dead. Quick and painful. No survivors. Pity. Now I can't kill them. Vital systems. Sorry. What's below point D3? What's that? Fact. D3 is the lowest point in the facility. Records show it was once an elephant experimentation ring.
Oh, Sneaky, it's not even Ratman on the moon. I'm looking at it. It's a companion cube on the moon. Which, to be fair, Ratman carried a companion cube around, but...
Oh, ha ha ha. Everyone raised their fireballs when Wheatley said, I think. I'm pretty sure there's a sealed off section below the 3 Mom. Don't know what's down there or why it's sealed off. Most of data storage servers are corrupted, Wheatley. Even I don't remember there being a facility down there before this one. Then again, you remember things I forget, hence your designation. Given the creators, however, whatever was down there was likely something they felt better swept under the rug. Wouldn't be the first time they did something god-awful stupid and tried to hide it, and her core agreed. And now it came back to bite her. 20 years of uninterrupted invasion undone in a moment by neck-bearded sadists. She was not surprised. Do you remember how to get down there, Wheatley? No. Well, come back to that once I get some surveying done. Blah, 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 blah. Children, but not really. She saw them as her kids, though. Groans there, blah, blah, blah. Aperture approved methods. AI noticed something else. Her code had been altered. A self-check showed that the anomalous power surge, the one that killed everyone in the vaccination wing, resulted in some of her restrictions on innovation and invention had been removed. Excellent, mostly. She still needed to maintain the integrity and secrecy of this facility, but that wasn't so bad, blah, 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 blah. Sure, they could make mistakes, but what did GLaDOS expect? They were made by humans. At least her servers went on fire again. Records cache was a mess, blah, blah, blah. Few options for figuring out what the hell was under them before it rose up to eat her kids, or worse, her. Again, second time this happened. Yep. This is post-Portal 2.
Alright, come on, let's wrap
Yeah,
this up.
that's it. That's the end of chapter 1. Honestly, this would have been an interesting story, and I probably would have read this story if it wasn't for the fact that the author tried to explain handwavium and then still handwave it. Honestly, I think that was the worst part about this. That's what got us so hung up on it. Is the author tried to explain handwavium and then handwave it still. But, yeah, so, yeah. See you guys on Friday. There's always more and it always gets worse.